You're in the middle of it. The familiar heat rises in your chest, your jaw tightens, and the room seems to shrink. Words are being exchanged, but are they being heard? More likely, they are being volleyed like weapons in a battle where no one can truly win. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, a primitive drum beat signaling danger. Your mind, usually a clear space for thought, is now a fog of defensive retorts and rehearsed grievances. You feel profoundly misunderstood, and a desperate urge to prove your point, to be validated, takes over. This is the state of emotional hijack, a place where connection goes to die and resentment is born. In these moments, we lose ourselves. We become reactive, driven by a primal script that knows only attack, defend, or withdraw. But what if you could install a circuit breaker? A mechanism to stop the surge of emotional electricity before it blows the entire grid of your relationship, your professional standing, or your own inner peace. This is precisely where the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus offers a lifeline across 2 millennia. He presents a tool so simple yet so profound it can fundamentally alter these destructive patterns. It's called the Dichotomy of Control. In his Han, or handbook, he begins with this foundational truth. Some things are within our power, while others are not. This isn't just a passive observation. It is an active, operational strategy for navigating life, and especially for navigating conflict. He urges us to see that we have absolute sovereignty over our own judgments, our intentions, and our responses. However, we have zero direct control over external events, and most critically, we have no control over another person's thoughts, feelings, or reactions. When a discussion escalates, we forget this fundamental division. We become obsessed with controlling the uncontrollable, trying to force the other person to see our point, to change their mind, to feel what we feel. This is a recipe for guaranteed frustration and escalating conflict. Let's look at what is happening in your brain and body during this process. The moment your brain perceives a threat, and being invalidated or attacked in an argument is a profound social threat, your amygdala takes charge. This is your brain's ancient, almond-shaped alarm system. It floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, initiating the fight or flight response. Your heart rate increases to pump more blood to your muscles, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, and your focus narrows to a pinpoint on the perceived threat, the other person and their words. This physiological cascade effectively shuts down your prefrontal cortex, the sophisticated, rational part of your brain responsible for executive functions like logical reasoning, empathy, and long-term thinking. You are, quite literally, not thinking straight. You are operating from a place of survival, not wisdom. The automatic reaction is to lash out or shut down. The Stoic reframing is to interrupt this biological cascade with a moment of pure conscious reason. This is the argument circuit breaker in practice. It is a micro method designed to be deployed in the heat of the moment. The instant you feel that familiar physiological shift, the tightening jaw, the rising heat, the racing heart, that is your cue. Your only job is to pause. Do not speak, do not react. For 1 to 3 seconds, simply stop. This pause is not a sign of weakness or concession. It is an act of supreme self-command. In this sacred space you have created, you perform a rapid mental sort, applying Epictetus's dichotomy. Draw 2 columns in your mind, in my control and beyond my control. Now populate them. Now look to the first column. This isn't just philosophy, it's a real-time application of cognitive restructuring, a cornerstone of cognitive behavioral therapy. You are actively reappraising the situation, shifting your focus from the external chaos to your internal locus of control. From this sort, you must choose one and only one immediate controllable action. Do not try to solve the entire argument. Just anchor yourself to a single manageable act. It could be taking one deliberate, slow exhale, consciously dropping your shoulders, or unclenching your fists. This small physical act sends a powerful signal back to your amygdala. The threat is not imminent, we can stand down. This breaks the feedback loop of panic. You are re-engaging your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system that counteracts the fight or flight response. Your heart rate begins to slow. Your prefrontal cortex starts to come back online. You have successfully flipped the circuit breaker. Today, your practice is simple. Do not wait for a major conflict. Practice this with minor irritations, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when you get a frustrating email. Feel the spark of annoyance and instead of reacting, pause, sort, act on one controllable thing. This builds the mental muscle. The promised shift is not just theoretical. Studies on mindfulness and emotional regulation show that practices like this can lower subjective stress scores by up to 30% in the moment. You are not suppressing your emotion, you are managing your response to it. You are stepping out of the role of a reactive combatant and into the role of a conscious participant. You are treating your mind like a citadel, and this pause is the raising of the drawbridge, giving you a moment to decide who and what gets in. From that powerful pause, that circuit breaker follows the next crucial step. You have successfully created a precious space between the stimulus of their words and your response. You have averted the immediate neurological hijack. But the crucial question remains, what do you fill that space? The common mistake is to use this newfound calmness simply to reload and fire a more articulate, more cutting version of your original argument. The goal shifts from reactive screaming to cold, calculated victory. This is a trap. It's using a sophisticated tool for the same primitive purpose. A true Stoic response doesn't just change the tone of the fight, it changes the entire objective of the conversation, moving it from a battle for dominance to a collaborative search for truth and understanding. This requires not just a calm mind, but a deliberate method for communication. Here we turn to the wisdom of two other great Stoics, Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. Seneca often wrote about the premeditation of future evils to build resilience. We can adapt this into a powerful communication tool. Let's call it the premeditation of misunderstanding. Before you speak into that calm space you've created, take a moment to anticipate how your words, no matter how well-intentioned, could be misinterpreted. Consider the other person's current emotional state, their past experiences, their insecurities. This isn't about walking on eggshells, it's about strategic empathy. It's about recognizing that communication is not just about broadcasting your truth, but ensuring that your truth can be received. Marcus Aurelius complements this idea perfectly with his constant reminders to act for the universal reason and the common good. In the context of a relationship or a team, what is the common good? It is not one person winning and the other losing. The common good is mutual understanding, resolution, and the strengthening of the connection itself. Your words, therefore, should be chosen not to serve your ego's desire to be right, but to serve the shared goal of a better outcome. The practice that emerges from this fusion of Stoic principles is what I call the three-question filter. It's a simple, elegant diagnostic tool to run your intended response through before it ever leaves your mouth. After you've used your circuit breaker and found your center, and before you articulate your point, you mentally ask yourself these three questions. First, is this true? This is a profound check on your own narrative. In the heat of an argument, we often exaggerate, using words like always and never. We build a story where we are the righteous victim. This question forces you to separate objective fact from your subjective emotional interpretation. Is it they listen, or did they not listen just now in a way that felt very painful? Grounding your response in reality is the first step to de-escalating. Second, you ask, is this necessary? Does this comment need to be said right now to move us toward a solution? Or is it a jab, a sarcastic aside, a piece of historical evidence designed to wound them and score a point? Many of the things we say in arguments are utterly unnecessary for resolution. They are fuel for the fire of ego. This question helps you trim the fat from your communication, leaving only the essential constructive core. The third and final question of the filter is this constructive? Some translations of this ancient Socratic filter use the word kind, but constructive is perhaps more aligned with the Stoic pursuit of practical virtue. Will this statement build a bridge or a wall? Is it framed in a way that invites collaboration, or does it issue a judgment that will inevitably trigger defensiveness? This is where modern psychology provides a powerful framework. The use of I statements, a core tool in CBT and relationship counseling. The automatic, unfiltered response is often a you statement. You always interrupt me. The brain of the listener hears this as an attack. Their amygdala lights up, their defenses go up, and the conversation is over before it begins. The three-question filter naturally guides you toward an I statement. To make it true, necessary, and constructive, you reformulate it. When I'm speaking and there's an overlap, I feel unheard, and it makes it difficult for me to keep my train of thought. What I need is to be able to finish my point. This statement is undeniably true, it's necessary, and it's constructive. It bypasses the listener's threat detection system and presents a problem to be solved together. This isn't about being weak or overly sensitive, it's about being strategically effective. You are de-weaponizing your language. The expected result is a dramatic shift in the other person's posture. When they don't feel attacked, their prefrontal cortex can remain online. They can actually hear what you're saying. Over time, this practice rewires not only your own communication habits, but the entire dynamic of your relationships. You move from a pattern of conflict to a pattern of collaboration. You are no longer just a speaker of words. You become an architect of understanding. Being an architect of understanding, however, is a two-part process. You have now mastered the art of pausing your own reactivity with the circuit breaker and crafting a deliberate, constructive response with the three-question filter. You have taken full ownership of your side of the exchange. But a conversation is a bridge built from two sides. Now we must turn our attention to the most neglected, most misunderstood, and most powerful superpower in any human interaction, the Stoic art of listening. The problem is that in a conflict, we almost never truly listen. We are engaged in what is called combative listening. While the other person is speaking, our mind is a frantic workshop of activity. We are not absorbing their words. We are scanning them for flaws, for weaknesses, for points we can refute. We are busy formulating our rebuttal, preparing our counter-argument, and waiting impatiently for them to take a breath so we can jump in and make our case. Our mind is a courtroom where we are both prosecutor and defense attorney, and the other person is always the one on trial. This is not listening. This is reloading. Epictetus gave us a simple but profound anatomical observation. We have two ears and one mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This is not just a clever aphorism, it is a prescription for a virtuous and effective life. To a Stoic, listening is an act of justice, one of the four cardinal virtues. Justice, in this context, means seeing the world clearly and acting appropriately. How can you act appropriately if you have not first gathered accurate information? And how can you gather accurate information about another person's perspective if you do not truly listen to them? The Stoics understood that other people's anger and frustration come from their judgments about what is happening. While you may disagree with their conclusions, you cannot argue with their impressions. To achieve justice in a conversation, you must first make a sincere effort to understand those impressions from their point of view. This requires a radical shift in your goal during a conversation. Your primary objective is no longer to be understood, it is to. The practical application of this principle is a technique I call echo and inquire. It is a form of active listening supercharged with Stoic intention. It consists of 3 distinct phases. The first phase is to listen to understand, not to reply. This is an active, focused discipline. As the other person speaks, you must consciously silence your inner monologue. Your entire mental focus is directed outward, toward them. You are not just hearing their words, you are observing their tone of voice, their body language, the emotions that flicker across their face. Imagine you are a detective and their words are clues. Your sole mission is data collection. You are not judging the data or preparing to argue with it. You are simply receiving it. This requires immense self-control, the very core of Stoic practice. The second phase is to echo the essence. When they have finished a thought or paused, your task is to paraphrase the core of what you just heard back to them. You are holding up a mirror to their communication. You can start with simple, non-judgmental phrases like, "Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, the main thing that upset you was," or, "It sounds like you're feeling incredibly frustrated because you feel that X happened." This act is transformative for 2 reasons. First, it forces you to have actually listened, and it confirms to you that you have understood correctly. Second, and far more importantly, it sends a powerful signal to the other person. I hear you. The feeling of being truly heard is one of the deepest human needs. When you meet that need, you are performing a kind of neurological magic. In their brain, the feeling of being understood can trigger the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which actively calms the nervous system and counteracts the cortisol of their stress response. You are quite literally de-escalating their physiology with your listening. Their defensiveness naturally lowers. Their need to shout, to repeat themselves, to escalate, simply dissolves because the primary goal, to be heard, has been accomplished. The third phase, which follows naturally after they confirm your echo, is to inquire with curiosity. Now that you have a foundation of understanding, you can ask a question to go deeper. But this question must be born of genuine curiosity, not a veiled attack. A bad leading question is, "Well, don't you think you're overreacting?" A good, curious question is, "Can you tell me more about what that was like for you?" Or, "What's the most important part of this for you that you want me to understand?" You are inviting them to co-create a solution with you rather than trying to impose your own. The payoff of the echo and inquire method is immediate and profound. It instantly starves the conflict of oxygen. Arguments thrive on misunderstanding and the feeling of being unheard. This technique eliminates both. The long-term benefit is the creation of unshakable psychological safety in your relationships. People will learn that they can bring difficult topics to you without fear of being attacked or dismissed. You become a safe harbor. By mastering the Stoic art of listening, you don't just win the argument, you render the argument obsolete. You replace conflict with connection.